So when we visit a manufacturer, sometimes we perform a very strict audit, which is you start looking at the facility, at the personnel, the training that this personnel has. You know, this ingredient is being made in this plant, so you want to make sure that it's pest-free, that the water is treated and processed and it's clean, and you know that it has the grade of quality that is expected, that the personnel is trained in the different functions that they do, that they know exactly what they're doing, that they have a very solid documentation process where if you tell them, if you ask a question, if you say, how do you manufacture this ingredient? How is it, you know, do you have in-process testing? Where do you get your plant material? And where do you store it? And, you know, who grew it? And how long has it been here? And, you know, all of that, it is impossible to remember. You know, it has to be documented. And so it has to have a documentation trail so that you know when these plant material came in. Where does it come from? You know, how long was it sitting out in the dock, or was it brought in? You know, is it dry? Who identify the plant material? When the plant material is dry, many of them look alike. You know, if you have dry plant material, you can make a mistake. So you want to make sure that it has been labeled properly, that it has been stored properly, that it's free of insects. And so we really, really look, we really even go into the uniforms that they use, how frequently they change. Are they allowed to go outside and wear the uniforms and you know, go get lunch and come back? You know, do they wear hairnets? Do they have booties covering their shoes? Do they have shoes that they only use inside? You know, how frequently they wash their hands? You know, all of that. And how is the equipment cleaned in between extracts? You know, you could make an extraction today. 2 days later, you're going to make a different extract. And, you know, how did you clean that equipment to make sure that you don't cross-contaminate? So we actually have a very, very long list of questions that we ask, and also the visual inspection. You know, I mean, I could fax that list to the, you know, manufacturer, and that list will come back with all those questions. But if you are not there, it's almost impossible to say, oh yes, you know, the water is USB and they're only using ethanol, you know, food grade ethanol, and, you know, because it's all in writing. You want to be there. You want to. There's a very big difference when there is a presence. You know, one of the things that I do is I audit farms. You know, I go out to the farm, and then the farm could be, you know, very, very remote area. And we walk through the farm and we talk to the farmers, and sometimes it's very complicated because if I'm in China, I have to have a translator, you know, someone who's going to translate my question, and then the question gets answered, and then he has to translate it back, and it takes a lot of effort to go like this all day long, you know, because part of it could get lost in the translation. So we you know, we take our time when we do things like that, but we don't allow farmers to use pesticides. Now, the question is, who owned the land, or who farmed that land before? And where's the water coming from? Is your neighbor, you know, your land neighbor, using pesticides? Can the water that irrigates your field bring some pesticides from the neighbor farm? So we do, we try to do as much as we can, but the final check comes in the lab when we look for those pesticides. We specifically go look for these pesticides that are used, and we look for heavy metals.
One facility that we visited, I noticed that there happened to be spider webs. And I asked them about their pest program, and I said, help me understand your pest program. And they said, oh, we have a third party that takes care of that, and they come in and visit with us. And I said, okay, show me what you do and show me your records. And I noticed these spiders, and the spider was right there. And I said, I have a little bit of a concern. I said, I'm hoping that this spider is not part of your third-party pest control system. And they laughed a little bit, and it was funny for them because it was kind of a joke. But then I seriously said to them, I hope you appreciate the fact that spiders never go where there's not food. And so I have to challenge you on how you take care of your insects, because I can't have any insect infestation in this plant. Surprisingly enough, as we walked a little farther down the warehouse, there I saw an open door, a door which had about an 1.5-inch gap under the doorway. And I said, well, now, help me understand your rodent control system. And they said, well, we don't have to do anything about that. Our regulations don't require that. And I said, well, I'm a little surprised about that, because I saw no rodent stations inside the building. And I said, what about outside? Yeah, we take care of them on the outside. There wasn't on the outside either. Just so happened that there was one of those plants that, again, the visit was a lot shorter because of some of the answers that I was getting, because the same kind of not really quality concern answers were in the inside of the plant as well, when I checked on how they were storing the bags and other kinds of things like that. I rejected that plant.
Before we get to the plant, there is a very important process that takes place. The first contact we have in any manufacturer, anywhere in the world, starts with the top management, with the top executives of that company. Why? Because that's exactly where we need to understand if we think alike in terms of quality. Because if top management doesn't rank quality as the #1 importance in the whole business, we just don't do business with them, because there is a major gap between the way we will be thinking. We do business only with manufacturers that understand and want their companies to live day in, day out, improving quality and having the top level of quality that it's possible in the industry. That's why throughout the world we have a very small circle of manufacturers, because we are not going out to just implement quality in someone who you have a relation of about a month, 2 months. We have long-lasting relationships, so that we are completely integrated in the process of understanding quality and how day in, day out, from lot to lot, you achieve those quality features for the product. Well, actually, we had recently an example of that became visible in a worldwide basis, that a company of that was considered one of the top quality and the biggest pharmaceutical companies in a well-developed country with very good quality systems has been shut down by the regulatory agencies in that country for not complying with quality, putting customers at risk, to the extent that the local government, through their health agency, asked them to recall all the products produced by them for all companies for the last 14 months or so. Now, the interesting portion about that is that we have been approached many times for that company and for other companies that would like to work with them, so that Pharmanex would produce there. And the indications were just fantastic. We're just the best local company, pharmaceutical company, routinely inspected and by local agencies. So we went there, and we found innumerous violations in the process of talking with management, and also in the plant. that led us to say there is no way we're going to do business with that company. So the day the news came out throughout the world in the internet, we had many people who called us and said, do we produce there? Well, we were very proud and happy to say, no, sure not. We hadn't produced and we are not producing, and there would be no way we would produce there. One of the things that we do, and Wim Dersch and I do this all the time, is to start by the warehouse, because the warehouse where you store your raw ingredients must be a place that is very well organized in order to comply with all the aspects that you need to have consistency in the way you formulate your product, the way you produce your product. So in the warehouse, those raw ingredients must be very well kept in terms of having a clean environment and having procedures and controls, identification, so that we know exactly which lot will go in each product and in which quantity. And starting by a warehouse is an excellent place to start, because the companies, and actually in many cases we have stopped our visit at the warehouse level, because a warehouse cannot be other way than absolutely clean and organized. Well, a better example is that you go to a warehouse and you see that the doors, underneath the doors there is a gap between the floor and the door, which is an excellent invitation to rodents or pests to get into the warehouse. That's absolutely unacceptable. Why? Because you don't have the insurance that while things are happening in production and while you're doing other things in your job, your product's not being contaminated. So it is absolutely fundamental that we have all the features physically and procedures that guarantee that your raw material is not going to get dirty, because people are not looking after to that.